podcast about Catholic things. This is Eric, the ambassador of common sense, and I'm here with
Dan, the ambassador of nonsense. Welcome, everyone.
And everybody's talking about the interview with Shia LaBeouf, who I had to practice saying his name before we started recording. Shia LaBeouf and Bishop Barron. And I guess it's something to talk about. But I didn't. It surprised me that it got this much attention. I wonder how many novies saw the interview. Even, I guess a lot did because. I mean, is he that popular?
Well, he is a well-known actor, and he's a good actor.
I didn't know who he was,
but he also I don't know whether it's just accusations that aren't true or whether he really got into some bad stuff or what, but he did get into a funk in his life where, he was depressed, never felt like going. I mean, he, was on the verge, I guess, of suicide a couple times or whatever. I don't know a whole lot about that. I do not keep up with news.
Yeah.
Especially news about celebrities. So all of the stuff that he's kind of referencing in his recent past, I had no idea about any of that stuff. Recent past, I mean before he started taking, looking into the role as Padre Pio that he's taking on.
That's the thing. Let's say, let's say this interview with Bishop Barron didn't happen. We would both probably know who he is in a year when they release the movie of Padre Pio.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. True.
But only because he played Padre Pio.
Right. Right.
But I mean, I know he was in Transformers. That's really the only movie I've seen with him in it.
Oh, okay. See, I never even got into that. I mean, I guess I saw one of the Transformers movies, but I never really got into that. I didn't like it very much.
The first one was pretty good. The very first one. He was in a movie called Eagle Eye. I didn't see that.
It was. I mean, being an engineer, a software engineer, it was hard for me to accept the premise at face value, but if you could kind of just not think about that, it was an okay movie. He was in Disturbia, which is, in my opinion, a pretty good movie. There may be,
you know what I did. I think I saw that. It was almost, if I remember right, it was almost like a Rear Window type of movie.
Yes. It was but it wasn't just a ripoff of Rear Window. It was a sort of reimagining of the whole story.
Of the movie. Okay, and I remember it being okay, good, but it was a long time ago when I saw it, and I don't know. He may be one of the greatest actors ever. I just don't know it because I don't know enough about pop things anymore.
But he's a good actor. He plays believably and he's enjoyable to watch. You're not cringing when he recites his lines and stuff like that.
But aside from that, now I definitely know who he is, and with a huge amount of admiration, the way he comes in as an outsider who's not been Catholic, and I guess it's almost like he faces off with Bishop Barron about a subject that a lot of, not us as if we're part of the crowd, but people like Timothy Gordon and Taylor Marshall have wanted to talk to Bishop Barron about,
Right.
They've wanted to make this case for the TLM, and Bishop Barron wouldn't let them. And here, this guy, this outsider, not only comes and does it, but does a really good job of it.
Well,
and talks about things
he sneaks it in.
Yeah.
Because he's way more diplomatic, and I don't know if he's being purposely sly, but
I don't know if he was or not, but he's like, I don't want to get into the controversy, but, and then he hits it.
He says that after he's already
smacks it out of the park.
The controversial thing.
It was great. And he said some things that I don't really connect to, but some things that I haven't thought of before. Some things that I've never heard another trad say.
Yeah, yeah.
And then some things that I definitely connect with.
I think it's interesting to hear him because, we've well, I don't know if you have. I've seen, for example, the interviews, say, on EWTN with, they did one with, Raymond Arroyo did one with Mel Gibson, and I think separately one with Jim Caviezel after the Passion of the Christ came out. And, I mean, these guys are longstanding Catholics. They're going to have their, they've got their Catholic moment here in film. They got together, did that film. They're going to go back to their lives. But, they're going to keep being Catholic. That's what they are. And so when they talk about Catholic things, it kind of rolls off naturally. What I found really interesting about Shia LaBeouf is that he discusses Catholic things with that same kind of familiarity that it feels natural. But he also says stuff that I've never heard anyone else point out. Like for example, when he refers to saints' relics as talismans, which he doesn't mean it in a bad way.
Right.
But what he was saying about it is, we have all these physical things sitting around. I don't have to wonder if this particular saint lived because they've got his heart right there in a box for me to look at.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's just an aspect of it that I've never even thought of before.
Right. Yeah, it was impressive.
But he talks about saints' relics as though it's the most natural thing in the world. Which every Catholic grows up thinking of it that way.
And him being so new to the faith was what was so bizarre about the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But he said some. Okay, the main punch, the 1-2 was I don't like being sold something. I don't like being feel like I'm being sold a car when I go to mass. And
you go to the new mass and you feel like you're being sold a car.
And he's exactly right.
This bureaucratic effort to activate people that he compared it to.
Right. I've never heard it put that way, but yeah, he's exactly right. But he also said something. He said he's a feeler, and he feels more at the TLM. That's the one where I'm not. It's no disrespect to what he's saying. It's just that I've never felt that way. But and I just wonder, is that just because of me? And the TLM is a place to feel for the kind of person who needs a place to feel.
Well, I mean, that's one of the. If he's saying that feeler in the same way, feeler versus thinker, that's one of the 4 axes of the was it Myers-Briggs personality,
which I don't go for 100%.
Right. But if you think about that, a feeler is someone who's going to respond to the kind of the emotional layout of something. And so if you think about the 2 different ways of doing Mass, the TLM versus Novus Ordo, and you kind of try to cast yourself as a feeler, okay, what's going to make you feel the heightened sacredness of what's going on?
Yeah, the magnitude.
Yeah. What's going to make you feel that this is something otherworldly?
Certainly the
right?
TLM.
I mean, as an emotional response. It's obvious. In fact, now that he's brought that out and I start thinking about it, it's like, wow, it's obvious that the TLM does that better than the Novus Ordo, probably for feelers even more than for thinkers like us.
Right. And see, that's the thing. Because ever since he said that, I've been thinking about this, and I don't think of myself as a thinker either. I just, or at least not in. I think I am a feeler. I mean, like I watch. Well, I used to. I guess there's a bit of a history here and a change that had to take place for a reason. But I used to watch the most sad and emotional movies that I could find, and I would watch them over and over again to kind of immerse myself in emotion. So I think of myself as a feeler, but I never did that at the TLM.
Oh, right.
But,
right.
I kind of got a theory about this because I used to do that, and I would watch sad movies, and I would not like girl sad movies, more like like Gone Baby Gone and No Country for Old Men,
No
Blade
Country
Runner,
for Old Men, and stuff like that. Right.
Scanner Darkly. I'd read the books too, but I don't know. There was a point in my life, like 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 10 even, where I discovered I had a serious anger problem that had to be dealt with in a life-changing way. And one of those ways is that through things like sessions with a counselor and stuff like that, I discovered that I kind of put myself on an emotional roller coaster almost on purpose. To try, I turn on a movie to try to activate some kind of heavy emotion, and part of turning that anger problem off was not going on those roller coaster rides, just stepping off them, refusing to go. So I started doing that actively, and I don't watch sad movies. I still read sad books, but for different reasons. But I don't sit around and watch sad things anymore. And
Depressing things.
Or depressing or frightening or anything that's really going to get me going. I just...
Like emotionally intense.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I just don't do it. Now, unconnected to that, somebody told me that scientists think that maybe the purpose of dreams are to train your mind to deal with emotionally charged events. And ever since I stopped watching emotional movies, I have a lot more emotional dreams. Whether it's anger or fear or sadness, I almost every other night, I wake up either angry or sad about something that doesn't even exist. But,
That's interesting. Yeah.
And I remember most of my dreams. Well, I remember a dream almost every night.
Right.
Might just be because I have to,
night, but yeah.
But I have to get up and go to the bathroom so often that I happen to remember a lot of my dreams. And I write a lot of them down. But it just occurred to me as I was thinking about this whole interview and the fact that I never got any kind of emotional charge out of the Mass, that whole thing just kind of occurred to me. Because I do think I am a feeler, but I don't know why I don't get that out of the TLM. I don't get it out of the Novus Ordo either. Certainly not. But
you could.
But I don't get any kind of intellectual dose of anything either. It's more of like, okay, I'm going to say some adult things. To me, this is how I've thought of it for the past, since I started going again 2 years ago, 3, I can't remember how many years ago. When you are with your wife getting excited, there's a yearning for sexual pleasure. But when it's done, it's not like you feel sexually satisfied. There's no real, other than the moment of climax, there's no real feeling of sexual contentment for men.
Oh.
What we feel is just the desire's gone.
It's not like
that's all.
At the end of a good meal where you
you sit back and that was good.
You're kind of you're full but not overstuffed. It's just that kind of thing isn't part of it.
Yeah, it's just not. That's not what men go through, as far as I know. It's more the fact that
it's just that the desire is now no longer there.
Right.
That's about the extent of the so-called satisfaction.
Maybe for the only half hour of your entire life, that half hour
Yeah.
afterwards, I no longer feel the desire. So that's kind of how I think of the TLM, because throughout the day, throughout the week, I feel kind of a yearning for God, for some kind of connection. But when I'm there at Mass, I don't really feel any connection. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like I'm tapped into God. But as I'm walking away, I no longer have the desire. Or I no longer have a yearning, right. Put it that way.
Right.
That's
like it's
I don't know how many other guys get that out of the TLM.
But that I mean, it's I don't know that necessarily makes you a thinker, but that's I mean, being a thinker and approaching the TLM as a thinker, to me, the whole idea of being a thinker is that there isn't a so-called charge that, like a feeler might get an emotional charge. Well, a thinker, there's not a corresponding experience for a thinker. A thinker merely dwells on things, through thought and reason and abstraction and that kind of stuff. That's how a thinker takes things in, whereas a feeler has a more emotional response to whatever kind of situation.
And I have a feeling actually I did go to the TLM a long time ago, and I think I do kind of, it was a long time ago, and I left so angry, but I think it probably was more of an emotional experience for me. I was so angry when I left the TLM that I just don't remember it, because I had little kids, and a lot of the TLM was me trying to keep my kids quiet so as not to get thrown out, which ended up happening anyway. So
that's that's one of the things, though, about Mass itself. And I think because I know that for people, like, you've been to concerts before, to bands that you like. I've been to concerts.
I've been like 2 or 3.
The bands we go to, probably different ones, but when you're at that concert, there's you get drawn into things, to the music, and there is a it might be visceral, but some kind of a thing going on inside. And you call it a feeling or whatever. And I think that the Novus Ordo is an attempt to try to create that experience every Sunday. And probably the closest that anybody comes to it is by having music there that's completely inappropriate for Mass anyway. And then what people aren't drawn into the Mass, they're drawn into the music. And in the way that you might get drawn into, a good band at a concert or something like that.
Well, I think that's what happens at these, like, mega churches.
Oh, yeah. That's why they're popular.
They have a rock band come out, and they get people charged up about something. To be honest, if you sit and listen to the music, it's more Catholic than anything you'll hear in a Catholic church.
Oh, like a Christian rock band, you mean?
Yeah. The stuff that they play at these mega churches, just read the words. It's a prayer. It's an actual prayer. Whereas Glory and Praise songbooks, I don't know what the hell they are.
They're just dumb. A lot of them are kind of loose translations of like, say, Psalms or quotes from Isaiah or whatever. But the thing is, they don't even take like a psalm and set it to music. They pick a line from this psalm that sounds, godly and, gooey and whatever, and then a different line from this other psalm, and maybe another line from this other song. I've noticed that it's not really, it doesn't flow like anything else that we have as Catholics.
Yeah,
but where I was going with this thing, that the TLM does not have that rock concert heady kind of visceral invitation to it to draw you in, and you might love it. And you might go because you love it, and maybe you're drawn to, I don't know, the incense. Maybe you're drawn to just the idea of the Eucharist. Maybe like Shia LaBeouf, there's a sort of emotional response to it or whatever. But the thing is, you have to go. And this is where God, he wants us at some point in our lives to begin doing things just because we love him, even though it feels choresome. He doesn't necessarily want us to be in a state where we have this constant desire to be doing exactly what we should be doing for him. He wants us to go through. That's why these great saints and mystics go through this experience of the dark night of the soul. It's like what Mother Angelica described. She said, that's your chance to love Jesus because he's Jesus, not because you're getting good feelings back out of the prayer experience or whatever it is. And I like to sort of, since you've brought marital relations into it, and this isn't going to go there, but if you think of your relationship with your spouse, there's the stuff that is part of loving your spouse, which is all the stuff that you do even though it is choresome and tedious and you don't necessarily want to do it. And you do it joyfully. Even when you're grumbling, you're still doing it joyfully, but you're doing it because you love your spouse. Well, that's what, that's the I love you part of it. And then there's those things that aren't ever tedious or choresome, like what you were referring to earlier. There's not a point at which it's a chore to do that.
I gotta have sex.
Well, but also things, little things like making your spouse spontaneously laugh at something. If there's a way to do that at some point, you do it without thinking, and you don't feel like you're drudging up some kind of tedium,
like flirting,
or anything like that. That is the being in love, which is different than loving.
Right.
And I think that the Novus Ordo Mass is, and of course being in love is not nearly as important for a marriage, a relationship, and so forth as loving is. I think the Novus Ordo Mass is an attempt to get Catholics to be in this sustained state of being in love. And I think by doing that, they distract us from the loving.
Yeah. And I think one of his best points was the fact that it felt like a bunch of guys in the office were trying to do that by remote control. It's not even the priests trying to get people involved. It's a bunch of bishops saying, well, how can we make everyone be in love with us or with the Mass or whatever? But it was like, it's fake and it just doesn't work. It doesn't even work in what it's trying to accomplish. Certainly not in accomplishing anything. And we see that as the numbers go down and down and down, and the numbers in the TLM go up and up and up.
Yeah. And even ignoring the numbers going down or up, even to the extent that the numbers maybe hold, if dioceses and parishes can get those numbers to hold for the Novus Ordo, the numbers, the demographic of faith, if you want to think of it that way, the number of people who actually understand what's going on, who actually believe what's going on, that is shifting.
Yeah, it's
like you go to a Novus Ordo Mass, and at a typical Novus Ordo parish, you look around, and of the 100 people that you can see from your pew, maybe half of them believe in the real presence, maybe less.
Yeah, you'll see little things like whether or not they even bow when they go to take communion versus the guys who genuflect, or the people who bow their heads during the confession of faith. At the mention of the incarnation. Yeah, you'll see some people actually bow, and you'll see some people kind of put their head down a little bit. And it seems like the vast majority, unless the priest is really good at leading them in this, the vast majority don't do anything.
If he bows deeply, then the people tend to do that a little bit more.
Yeah, but I've started genuflecting at that time because that's what you do at the TLM.
I I used to do that with my family when you just go into mass, but at that part we would genuflect. And maybe I should take that back up. I mean, I bow deeply, but of course I'm reading, because I like to just open my missal, my TLM missal, when I'm at a Novus Ordo mass, and just read that while the mass is happening.
That's what I've started doing.
You take your.
I'd like to see a lot.
Red book so everybody can tell.
Yeah, I take the red book and I open it and I get some funny stares like, what is he doing? What's he reading?
I'm waiting for someone to ask me about it. I don't take the red book because the missal I have has the readings for the day and all that kind of stuff, and the propers, and I want to read those too. But of course, you can print those out each week and take it along with the red book.
That's what
I'm
I
waiting
used
for
to
someone
do.
to say, "What are you doing during mass? You don't seem to be participating." And my answer won't be. I wouldn't even give an answer if somebody asked me that at church. I would say, "Well, I'll tell you what. Let me use your question as a excuse to invite you over. You can come over. I'll supply the cigars. You bring whatever poison you like, beer, whiskey, whatever." And we'll sit out on my front porch and we'll have the conversation that question deserves.
Yeah, because there's not a quick answer for it.
Yeah. And any quick answer I could give, I feel like it would sell short what I'm doing.
Right. But I think that if a person were actually interested, who started to dig into, I saw this guy with a red book and somebody knew what it was.
What is that? Yeah.
And he started, why is he doing that? And then eventually lead to, say, watching the TLM on YouTube or something like that. And, okay, I see why he's doing this. Or maybe I don't see why he's doing it and it's bugging me and I'm going to keep digging into it.
Kind of understand.
Like
maybe they end up finding, the Mass of the Ages or something like that and watch it.
Right. But I do think that if you are a feeler, then the TLM is going to engage you a lot more than any Novus Ordo will. Even a well done Novus Ordo, is not going to offer the kind of engagement that.
It's possible that a Novus Ordo will engage you, but it's going to engage you in a direction that distracts you from where you should be going at that time.
Yeah, it's going to be shallow, and it's not going to be. It's going to be like a selfish, kind of like Amazing Grace type of feeling. Like, I'm so lucky because God forgave me, and I was such a sinner, and now I'm not such a sinner. Now I'm saved, and instead of what the TLM offers, where it's not necessarily that you're saved, but that you can be forgiven and that you can continue to gain merit and grace, and I don't know, it's a different kind of thing.
This sense that you have this opportunity to become one with Christ as he goes to the cross. Yeah. That you're it's like Shia LaBeouf said during the interview, this idea that this sense that he's being let in on this enormous secret.
Yeah, like finding a band. And I knew exactly what he meant because I go through a lot of indie stuff, and I often find bands before everyone else does. And, like I'll find people like Radical Face. I've introduced a lot of people to Radical Face. It's it's this guy who, I don't know, whatever. He's a musician. He's really good, but a lot of people have never heard of him. And when you find someone like that, and then you introduce it, and other people, and then you come back a month later, and the person you introduced it to now has all their albums. There's just a certain joy in that. And so I do that a lot because I look through recommendations for like music on places like Amazon or YouTube or whatever, and I end up finding a lot of obscure stuff. And there's, I don't know what it is about that, but there's a certain sense of satisfaction there. Like, look what I found. Nobody knew about this. And yeah, that does exist for the TLM. Less and less because it's getting more and more popular.
Oh, right. But the thing is,
but he was talking about
from that
being let in on the
it's like
crucifixion.
Right. It's like God's letting you like into this deep mystery that, you know, and the only path there is through the Mass.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Whereas
a heck
if you
of
go to
an
the
interview.
Novus Ordo, the Novus Ordo doesn't have any trappings that might cause you to think that there's something extremely otherworldly and special and I don't know, the words kind of fail me, but it doesn't convey that sense of being, you know, something wholly set apart.
Yeah,
transcendent, but right there for you.
Throughout the letter of Pope Francis that we dove into and are soon to be putting a book together. I mean, it's coming together. I got a lot busier this week than I ever was, so I had to kind of stop. But one of the main things is that Pope Francis kept talking about how wonderful the Mass is. And one of the points we came up with over and over again is that, okay, you're saying it's wonderful, and that's really the only way we know that it's wonderful is because people are saying it's wonderful. But you don't show it to us. We can't look at the Mass and the Novus Ordo and think, wow, this must be wonderful. This looks boring and stupid. It looks like an old lady thing or a kindergartner thing. And no man would want to be a part of it. Whereas the TLM, any man who's serious about life would see this and say, wow, there's something really special here.
What is that? I'm curious.
I want to be a part of this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he hit it dead on when he said that. And it was great seeing someone like Bishop Barron being told this in a situation where he couldn't just turn it off, you know? And he ended up having to agree with him. And it was, I kept hearing about it. You know, I think Taylor Marshall had said something about it on one of his podcasts. I didn't even listen to that podcast because I didn't know who Shia LaBeouf is. And,
right.
And then Timothy Gordon did. Then finally he said, all right, I'm going to have to listen to this interview, I guess. And I was glad I did.
I listened to it this morning just so that I would be able to talk about it on this podcast.
Yeah, but it was worth listening to, especially because it was Bishop LeBaron. Now,
Bishop Barron.
LeBaron. Shia LeBaron. I forget. Who's the bishop?
Yeah, right.
The thing about Bishop Barron is this, though, and this is what we talked about last week. He's not really a bishop. He's a producer.
Oh yeah. The way his I mean he's consecrated a bishop. He's ordained.
Okay,
but his actions. I'm just clarifying what we mean by not really a bishop. What he's doing is not bishopy stuff. It's producey stuff. It's commercial stuff. It's
he has a
he may
product.
be doing it for good reasons, and he may be doing it for a good cause.
But he's doing it for money.
But he's not doing it in a way that you would expect a bishop to do it, which is that, you know, like I said, you know, St. Paul never charged anyone for listening to one of his sermons or for getting to read one of his letters.
Yeah, I don't think Bishop Fulton Sheen ever charged for his videos or talks. I guess maybe you could pay him to come out and talk to your church, but he never sold a product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he had his TV show, but that was like the broadcast TV system.
That was network.
Was
You
new.
could say that was a
in the
product.
world of today where he could have just put them all up on YouTube and said, okay, there it is, everybody watch it because this is what people need to hear.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe he wouldn't have done that, but I just what Bishop Barron offers us is not what Bishop Sheen offered us. Bishop Barron is selling something, and that's all he's doing. And maybe that's popular, and maybe good comes out of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if he was interested in the good, then he wouldn't charge for it.
Right. I'm sure that a lot of the stuff that Bishop Barron produces goes out, without being sold. I don't want to say that everything he does is for sale.
Know. I don't even know.
But,
I didn't even know he had
like, for example, this interview, I was able to just go watch the interview. I didn't have to
on
log in anywhere, for example. So I think there's stuff that he does that goes out there. But, he makes products that he sells, and even the stuff that is just out there, I'm pretty sure that he, it's... The thing that bothers me about the modern church is how much everything the church does is embroiled in this copyright entanglement, the copyright regime of the world. We've talked about. I don't want to make this show about that, but
we've already done shows about this stuff, and we actually did a whole show about copyrights.
Yeah, we kind of did, didn't we?
Yeah, and about whether or not it's wrong to violate copyrights. But
to what degree is copyright a moral thing versus just a... what's interesting, and I was thinking about this. This is a complete sideline, but American law. So in America, the American federal system, everything that has to do with morality is relegated to the states. That's referred to as the police powers of the states. The states have laws against murder. It's always the state prosecuting somebody for, whether it's theft, murder, or what have you. Everything that's moral, it's up to the states, not the federal government. Copyright was explicitly given to Congress because it was not seen as a moral question. It was a pragmatic question of how do we encourage people to produce stuff. And that's all it was to the Founding Fathers.
And it's turned into the exact opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
It keeps people from producing stuff. It keeps new products from coming out. So, I guess,
anyway.
Because Bishop Barron, I just can't say anything good about the man. The fact that he spews heresy when he says that hell could be empty, hell cannot be empty, that's impossible. When he says that, what else did he do? He talked about the capital punishment. He said something about Elijah being fired by God.
Oh, that's right.
It was so dumb. It was like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. What are you talking about?
Worshippers of Baal?
Yeah. He was doing what he was supposed to do. Kill him.
Okay, well, I guess maybe he also thinks because the episode where the couple lied to the apostles about the money that they had. They sold their stuff, and Peter, once they told Peter, he calls them to fall dead, and maybe God fired Peter too.
Yeah, that's why Peter's not the Pope anymore because he got fired.
Yeah, no. Well, I think that must be why Paul has more books in the Bible than Peter does.
Yeah.
Because God fired Peter for being too harsh with those two.
It was just so nonsensical, and I thought, this guy, I don't know. Whatever.
That one was really dumb.
He's a producer, so that's what you would expect from a producer. And I don't think he'll ever be much more than that. But I guess he could be. I mean, he speaks well.
He speaks well. He is clearly knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And he has he does production well. So if he put that truly at the service of the church and said, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it as a bishop, which means that everything is public domain and free to the world, and the goal is to just disseminate it as widely as possible. And of course, in today's age, the way you do that is you say it's free to copy, because people will copy it. You use, it's a viral thing in today's world. You no longer have to get embroiled in, okay, who can I get to air it, on a broadcast network or anything like that.
Well, the thing is that other than not being a bishop, Shia LaBeouf has all those qualities, but even more so. Shia LaBeouf, I would say, is smarter than Bishop Barron. And I think he's smarter than him. And he also is good at producing, as good as Bishop Barron. I mean, didn't he direct a movie, too?
Not the Padre Pio movie. He might have directed a
No,
movie.
not the Padre Pio movie. But, I mean, he has all those qualities.
Oh, right.
I'm just saying he would be a better leader than Barron, and he seems to be a little bit smarter. So,
yeah,
I would say a new good leader would be Shia LaBeouf. Anyway, it's one of those things that, I don't know, when something like this happens, the trad side gets kind of hyped up, and I think it's good to be hyped up. I gotta wonder, is this going anywhere? It seems like it might be, but I don't know. Because I think most people will not see this.
I hadn't thought of this before you asked it at the beginning of our podcast, but how many non-traddy style Catholics even know that Shia LaBeouf has become Catholic?
Right.
At this point today.
Well, I guess the people who listen to Bishop Barron.
Well, that could be, yeah, because he's not, he's a very Novi guy.
Yeah, so a bunch of Novies who listen to him hear some guy who, and they kind of, a lot of them know who Shia LaBeouf is.
Yeah, most of them probably know who he is, and so it's
and they hear this and they're like, huh.
And there he is,
really,
kind of, very mildly sort of dissing on the Novus Ordo Mass.
Yeah.
To Bishop Barron.
And maybe some of them have never thought of it that way.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe here's the way I think, because I have friends who still go to the Novus Ordo, and they talk about a yearning for God, and maybe a lot of people who go to Mass yearning for God and still walk away yearning for God, still trying to find this connection that would fulfill them, would try out the Latin Mass and be like, oh, this is what I was missing.
Could be, yeah. Especially with him promoting it as a, at least for himself, an emotional experience.
Right. Because most trads do not talk about it that way.
Yeah. No.
I never did, but I just never thought of it that way.
Going to the Novus Ordo is an emotional experience. I get angry.
Yeah, I get angry and frustrated. And all right. The funny thing is, when we started recording this podcast, I was not going to the TLM.
That's right, because you said you went back, it was only 2 or 3 years ago, and we've been recording this podcast longer than that.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that I've somewhere in these podcasts discussed how I kind of got kicked out of the TLM, but I went from there angry, and I went to like 3 or 4 different parishes, and it just seemed like one was worse than the other. And I would
each time you go, it's worse than previous.
Yeah, and I would sit there in this pew listening to this idiotic priest just babble on about nothing. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you got 10 minutes, you could talk about anything you want, and you're telling me about nothing. You really have nothing more important. We're about to enter into the mystery of the Holy Eucharist, and you've got nothing to say. You can't even talk about the gospel. And I just got everybody be nice to each other and love each other, and it was things like that. And I thought it sickened me more and more, because of course it wasn't just that, but it was, I would see the priest
that kind of stuff
change the words in the gospel, or I would see him bring these first graders up and do this dance around the altar. and just things like that. And I think we had, like, in one of our early podcasts, we argued over whether or not you should take the Eucharist by the hand or the mouth, or whether or not it was sinful to take it by the hand. Now, your attack was different than the normal attack. I think we were focused on the bits of the Eucharist getting all over the place. That's kind of what the argument was around. But
right.
I was arguing on the side of it's okay. And back then I was receiving Eucharist by my hands. And now I don't even get up to go to the Eucharist because I think, like, me and my son started going to the TLM, and then we had to go to the Novus Ordo once, and my son, I didn't even get up to go to communion, but my son did, and he got up there and he knelt down and stuck his tongue out, and this little faggot distributing communion wouldn't give it to him.
Oh,
and
wow.
I thought, oh, man, there's going to be a fight.
That's awful.
He didn't fight him, but he just got up and left.
He can't
but,
while he's holding Christ, but yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I know my kids, and I'm thinking, this might be bad. It didn't get bad, but I'd say that kid doesn't know how lucky he is not to have a broken nose. I think it was really because he was holding the body of Christ in his hands.
Probably the only thing that saved him.
Yeah. But, yeah, it was that time when I just decided I'm never coming to this Mass again. Unless I have to. There are times when I miss the TLM. Yeah, you got to fulfill the obligation, and I have to.
If there's no TLM to go to.
I walk in with my missal, my red missal, and I read it during the Mass, and then I leave. Of course, some Masses, like there's Father Lawrence or Father Watkins here at St. Lawrence.
Yeah, St. Lawrence.
Yeah, you don't have to do that. He does a good Novus Ordo.
It's strange how he makes that seem not so Novi.
And the funny thing is, it's a 25-minute Mass.
It's fast. That's right.
It's really fast.
Here's the thing.
It feels so much more reverent.
What that proves is how much of the Novus Ordo, let's call it the Mass experience, is mere fluff that has nothing to do with the Mass.
Yeah, it's these stupid waiting periods that they do.
Yeah,
you get all the way back to your seat before the next guy gets up to start walking up to read the readings, and it's like, oh my gosh, just get on with it. Carrying each note in a song for 20 minutes, it's just speed the tempo up. There's no reason to go that slow at the processional hymn. It's just dumb.
Yeah.
And to sing every single verse.
Oh, right. That's a
they
big
got
thing
6
do,
verses, and we were all just standing there, and it's like, all right, come on.
Father's ready to start Mass, but we're going to sit here and sing. Or a big thing these days is they want to do 2 communion hymns. One of them while everybody's receiving communion, and then they want everybody to sit down after Father's done, with the ablutions and stuff, and listen to them perform a second communion song. It's stupid stuff like that makes the Novus Ordo Mass take long, because there's hardly anything in the Novus Ordo Mass itself.
Yeah, there's not. They strip so much of it out, and then they added so many. All right, we've done a whole lot of Novus. I don't know. That's the weird thing. Is this We're not even a trad podcast. It's just not that really. Every podcast ends up talking about that. Because it's so unavoidable.
It's the single most broken thing in the church right now.
Yeah. And we want to see it.
Of all the stupid stuff going on in the church, even more than the homos and everything else in the priesthood and stuff, the Mass is the single most broken thing in the church.
That's a good way of saying it. And like I said, here's the thing, because some of my sons have stopped going to Mass. And they stopped going to Mass before I started going to the TLM. And I had a talk with them. I said, look, you know the story, guys. My kids were crying. The priest told me to leave. Didn't tell me directly to leave, but during a homily talked about the fact that people with crying kids should leave.
Yeah, made it clear.
I walked out there angry. I wrote him a letter. He doubled down. Mm-hmm. Basically said, don't bring your kids to Mass if they can't be quiet. And there's a whole lot of other things involved in that. I said, but I did you guys a huge disservice by not walking in there and forcing my way and saying, I've got a right to be here. If you want me gone, you're going to have to call the police.
Yeah.
I am not leaving this church. I should have done that. And I feel guilty for it, especially now when I tried to push religion on my kids in this hokey, crappy thing that they call the Mass that just, I don't know what to say. It's so terrible. No man would ever want to be a part of this unless he already believed in the real presence. But if you don't have that underlying belief, why would you want to be there? So I did them a great disservice. Now, my two youngest boys have been going with me, and they've already, within a year, they got it. They were like, oh my gosh. And they swore they would never go to an English Mass again unless they're forced to, but...
sometimes circumstances, they just are.
If I could redo those years, I would just tell anyone, if the people around you make you feel unwelcome, don't let them. Go anyway. And plant yourself down and, your kids cry, you got to take them to the back. You do what you can to try to keep them quiet, but there are certain old ladies in some of these masses who want that emotional experience above all others, and crying children distract them from it.
Oh.
Yeah. And I would just say that let them be distracted. Because it's, while the Mass does connect with people in an emotional way, that's not what it's there for.
Yeah,
that's
the reality of the Mass is there with or without your emotions.
Yeah, that's not to sound like I'm
beautiful thing about it.
Tearing apart what Shia LaBeouf said, because what he said is 100% right, and I'm very glad that he said what he said in this interview. I'm just saying that we shouldn't expect that emotional attachment, and some people do.
Yeah.
And it's...
even if we have an emotional response to Mass like that, the Mass isn't there to be an emotional injection for us.
Right. We should think of that more as like a gift. Like, thank you for this.
I didn't...
yeah.
Maybe the thing that got us there, it's kind of like, when you're young and, you first see the woman you end up marrying and she's pretty, you're attracted to her, you're drawn towards her, and you want to spend time with her. But by the time you're 40 years into your marriage, she's that same dynamic of physical attraction isn't there. You might still think she's pretty because she's the same woman you married, but it's not like that youthful thing anymore.
Right.
It's grown and matured, and I think it's the same thing with the experience of the Mass. And I think over the years, Shia LaBeouf will find it's the same way too, with his experience.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. But he was, as he said, at a low point in his life, and there was this new fabulous discovery, and I guess it's that way for a lot of people. Again, my path to the TLM was a lot different because I was there at an early age and was bringing my kids, and then got kicked out and stayed out for like 10 years, and then finally came back to it. And I guess it was, we started doing this podcast, and we started more and more griping about all the Novus Ordo stuff. Only we didn't call it Novus Ordo stuff. We just griped about things that are popular in the church.
Yeah,
and around that
one
same...
about the music, for example.
Yeah.
Like, why is modern church music so bad?
And around that same time, TLM was TNM. What is it?
TNT.
TNT was getting big. It was kind of around that time. We started, then aside from all the stuff we're talking about, we're both listening to parts of TNT, and it's kind of bringing back this, oh yeah, this kind of crap didn't exist in the TLM. And so I found my way back to the TLM. But this podcast was not meant to be a trad podcast. I still don't think it is.
We still don't think of it that way. It's just a Catholic podcast.
It just keeps coming up, though, because it's hard not for things not to come up. Yesterday we talked about, or last week we talked about overpopulation. The week before that we talked about political violence. Both of those, eventually, we ended up talking about the TLM for some reason or other. I don't remember why, but we always end up talking about it just because it's such a broken part of the church nowadays. I don't have anything more to say about that.
The only thing I would say is that I hope there's a bunch of people. I mean, okay, so you know that there's the buzz in the trad crowd, excited that somebody kind of
like a fresh new face
forced Bishop Barron to admit that there's problems with the new math.
That was the big thing. Yeah.
But the thing is, people need to pray for Shia LaBeouf specifically because there's still a lot of opportunity. You know, I made reference earlier to Mel Gibson and Jim Caviezel, and I'm sure there are some other Catholics in the celeb world that they're already grounded. They're going to go back, to the extent that they're Catholic, they're going to keep on being Catholic. Shia LaBeouf, though, he's in a very immersive place right now, and it would be very easy for him, once this Padre Pio project is over, it would be easy for him to go back to, okay, let me take on the next project and whatever, because, what he is a movie maker. And we end up seeing that he's, the seed that was choked by thorns or something like that, because Jesus talked about the sower and the different seeds. So we should be praying that it sticks. I mean, it is
especially
real.
In a place like Hollywood.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that it's real, but the question is it going to stick? And so he needs our prayers that it does. Right.
And someone like that in that position to become another Mel Gibson would be great because the more we have, the better, and maybe we could start getting some decent movies again.
That would be neat.
I mean, we just don't see a lot of good movies. Every now and then, like the trad world is abuzz with, did you see this and that? And I watch it, and I'm always disappointed. I'm always like, well, I don't. Remember the movie about Fatima came out?
I remember that, and I was disappointed in it.
Yeah, I was like, this is dumb. Like she would say things like, "Man must stop insulting God." That's not what she said.
Yeah.
She didn't say insult. She said offend. There's a huge difference between offending and insulting. And she kept using the word insult, and I thought that's just... I was so disappointed in that movie.
Yeah, why did the director have to put it that way?
There was another one...
the old movie about Fatima was better, the one that they made back in the 40s or something.
Yeah, it was almost like a made-for-TV movie.
The black and white, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was, I don't know, poor, kind of poor. Actually, the acting wasn't that bad. It was just poorly directed, I guess. Or maybe it's just that old movies, they weren't as subtle. They were kind of in-your-face, preachy about... They weren't subtle about anything. No. Even like if you watch like old John Wayne movies. I like John Wayne movies, but nowadays in a movie they would show you something and then leave it at that, and you would be left to try to figure that out yourself. In a John Wayne movie, they would show you while he's telling you whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Something about
Yeah. I think
about men being
movies,
tough, you know.
They tended to be filmed versions of stage plays back then. You know, on a stage, when you're doing, a play on a stage, everything has to be there for a reason.
Yeah.
And you have to be explicit about it because, you've got one shot, you've got to keep that live audience engaged in that live performance that's going on. It's not like you can go sit down and rewatch the play or anything like that. So everything has to be kind of a little bit more explicit on a
face,
stage.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the older movies are like that, because they were filmed versions of stage plays.
Okay. Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess that's why I don't like a whole lot of old movies. I like to figure things out on my own, and newer movies help you do that better. But there have not been a whole lot of good religious movies. I think really the last good one that was made was The Passion of Christ.
Yeah.
You know what I would like to see? I would like to see a Jesus movie that, and of course Passion of Christ didn't do this because they spoke Arabic, but a Jesus movie that doesn't have everyone with a British accent.
Oh.
Why do they think Jesus had a British accent? I mean, why not just have a normal American accent? If you're filming in America for an American crowd, why does he have a British accent? That's dumb. Yeah. I even started writing a script to that effect. I just don't know what to do with it once I got it. So now I got the script. If anyone's a movie maker and they want to read a script where Jesus doesn't have a British accent, get in touch with me because I'll give it to you. But I would love to see more religious movies that aren't stupid. Mm-hmm. And the more Hollywood types who become serious Catholics to the point of going to the TLM, the better odds that we'll see something like that.
That's
well,
true.
like
That's
this
true.
movie, Padre Pio. I can't wait to see the movie now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
not just because of this, but Padre Pio. I mean, everybody knows who Padre Pio is.
Padre Pio himself, and it sounds like they were being very, driving for a high degree of authenticity and historical reality about his life and about what it was like to be him, both in terms of the stuff that like getting the mass right and stuff like that. How many times do you see what is supposed to be a Catholic mass and in a movie or something that's like, well, every Catholic knows that. Yeah, that's
it's
goes.
Painful. Yeah, it's just dumb. And the thing is, Padre Pio was kind of oppressed by the bishops,
by the church, by the bishop,
and he submitted himself to it. Whereas people like the guy who started SSPX, I can't even think of his name, the French guy.
Oh yeah, Lefebvre. Mm-hmm.
Lefebvre did the exact opposite.
Right.
I mean, I wonder what would have happened if Lefebvre had submitted. I wonder how things would have been different.
We don't know.
Would the TLM be bigger now?
Exactly.
And less oppressed? Because out of obedience, God was able to make something better happen. Mm-hmm. Whereas disobedience, God can only work through you so much when you're being disobedient.
Yeah.
And God worked through Padre Pio in a very big way through his obedience. So, I'm looking forward to this film. All right, we got anything else?
Not on that topic, no.
All right, so we'll talk about news. U.S. announces a security package of nearly $3 billion for Ukraine. I don't know how many other billions of dollars of packages we keep giving them, but they're down and determined to just print so much money that the dollar is worthless here in America.
That's going to just drive the inflation up again.
Keep doing
and
it.
Even though they're not pouring that money particularly straight into on American streets.
Yeah, but it's dollars.
They got to get the money from somewhere.
Yeah. You know what he also did? He orders airstrikes against Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and Russia-linked groups in Syria. An airstrike by the Russian military. He's striking Syrian forces, which you have to remember are Russia-backed.
Yeah.
I guess it's when Trump first took office, he dropped that giant bomb in Syria. Because he claimed that the leader in Syria had used gases against his own people. Well, the more we look into it, the more we see that was a lie. The guy did not gas his own people.
He was misled.
That was
Trump was misled.
The CIA. I think Trump was misled. But the funny thing is, after that initial bomb that he dropped, remember he dropped the mother of all bombs? It was like just short of a nuclear bomb that he dropped.
Right. It's like the most powerful non-nuke that exists.
Yeah. So after he dropped that, as far as I know, he never dropped another bomb.
Yeah.
I know that there were a couple
shut down that
they were
dollars it was, and he
remember they were expecting him to strike at Iran.
Yeah, and he's like,
he didn't retaliate.
Exactly. He said,
I think it was because he realized that they're jerking his chain. I don't think he'll ever admit that his bombing of Syria was a mistake. But I think he knows it was.
But he's learning from his mistakes, even if he's not admitting them.
But now, basically, the CIA and the FBI are running the government. And, speaking of the FBI, I started thinking about something ever since that I can't remember if I brought this up on the podcast or not. Ever since that raid on Trump's home.
Oh, yeah.
I just keep thinking about this. The FBI are at a point where they don't seem to worry about anything.
Yeah, they just do what they want to do. They don't worry about the rule of law. They don't worry about proper jurisdiction or anything.
Scary, and I started thinking, what could have changed them? I mean, they were already a little bit like this, but at least they came out in public and tried to make excuses.
Yeah,
but they stopped doing
they were like
that.
This back during the Bush. Before Bush, through the Bush and the Clinton years.
Yeah.
They were already like this.
Yeah. But there's one thing that changed in the past, 5 years. I can't remember how long ago it was. But remember, there was a guy who was just the scum of the earth person. Who everyone in the world thinks should have been dead. But he was alive. And he was doing despicable things named Epstein.
Yeah.
Somehow, he gets arrested. Now, he's been able to get away with everything because anyone who's got any power at all can be blackmailed by Epstein because he's got files on everyone.
Oh, because, they're all his clients.
Yeah.
Now
he's dead, but guess who raided his home? The FBI.
So they've got the files.
They're not scared of anyone, and this is why.
They don't need to be afraid of anyone, just like Epstein wasn't.
I think this is what it's all about. The whole thing, and the one guy they don't have anything on. The one man.
Is Trump.
Donald Trump. Because
that's
Donald
the
Trump.
One man they can't afford to have in office as the president because of that.
Yeah. I think that's what. Because you notice none of the. Some of the some of the podcasters and things like that are coming out against this raid on Trump, but none of the politicians are.
No
one's saying, "Hey, you guys overstepped your bounds." Yeah, I mean, these are. Don't you realize how bad it is when the FBI can go after politicians? That's dangerous. The guys who are making laws are now going to be harassed by the FBI. This is very dangerous. And yet nobody said a word about it. None of the Republicans in office said a word about it, hardly. I think this is why.
Yeah.
I think most of them have something against them that the FBI controls. Scary.
That
scary
makes more
stuff.
sense than almost anything else. I mean,
yeah.
You know that there are snakes in the Republican leadership that are gonna, turn away, not say anything. But for the level of complete and utter silence about it,
yeah, it's scary.
And the lack of any kind of sense of needing to justify themselves that the FBI is showing.
Yeah, they don't care. They're not even trying to make it look legit.
Mm-hmm.
They finally released that affidavit, and it's like a giant, big old black mark.
Just stupid, yeah.
You can't read anything. Like everything else they do. It is just frightening. Anyway, in Afghanistan, flooding there killed 182 people, wounding 250 more. It's weird that these deserts get these floods.
Yeah, but
because you don't think about this, but I mean, when it rains there, it really rains, and
yeah, I mean, it's like that, like in the American Western deserts too, like in Nevada and stuff.
Yeah. Let's see. 4 people, included a police constable, are killed in a mass shooting in Tucson, Arizona. I don't like calling these things mass shootings. It's not like a guy got up and started firing at a crowd. That's not what happened. This was a shootout with
police?
It was a shootout. What happened is the sheriff showed up with 2 deputies to serve eviction notices.
Mm-hmm.
They had lockout papers. They were going to, you're evicted.
You got to get out and lock the door. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and they got shot at. And
okay, that's not a mass shooting. That's just a
that's not a mass shooting. Yeah, there just happened to be 4 people who got shot, and I think one of them died.
But there was the guy...
No, 4 people are killed, actually, it looks like.
Yeah, but still, it was... But there was the one guy, maybe you have it as your story, also just like this past weekend or whatever, the guy that lit was it like an apartment on fire or something?
No, I didn't know about that. What's this?
So some guy, I think it was an apartment, he lit the apartment building on fire and then was shooting people as they were coming out to get away from the fire. No, let me see if I can find that. It was just this past weekend. Like down in Houston or something. Houston apartment shooting and fire. Okay, it's only 3 people, but a man started a fire to lure the neighbors out, and then he shot them.
That's terrible.
He was evicted from the apartment building. He shot 5 other tenants, killing 3 of them. This was Sunday morning. He set the fire to the house to lure them out and was shooting them as they were coming out. This was like at 1 a.m.
Man. I don't know. I think we got Biden warning us that the Republicans are about to get crazy and become terrorists, and I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more mass shootings over the next 6 months, or at least until the elections.
Yeah,
and
we'll see what happens if things
I think these are all
red in the elections.
FBI.
Yeah, we'll see if that, but as long as now you get a bunch of new congressmen, if you can get new congressmen who don't have deep ties in Washington or anything like that, then the FBI's files, let's say your Epstein theory is correct,
it gets smaller.
Then you might have people who might say, hey, wait a minute, the FBI's out of control. Let's put together a congressional committee to investigate this, stuff like that. But the thing is, Congress generally won't do something like that without prompting from, say, the president or something.
Yeah.
Unless it's the president being investigated. But anyway, we'll see. And they generally won't do it without the party leadership calling for it. And the party leadership are the ones that would be most susceptible to the FBI's blackmail.
Yeah.
If that's what's going on.
I think that's what's happening. Yeah. Because he's done nothing. So we'll just have to wait and see. Let's see, where am I? So the lawyers for Wikileaks publisher Julian Assange filed an appeal against his extradition to the U.S. Right after it was approved by the UK. So, I guess I thought he was already in the U.S., but his extradition was approved by the UK, and right now they are appealing. I don't know. I think we need people like Julian Assange, and I hope he prevails in this.
Yeah.
So, did you see the interview with Mark Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan's podcast? Or at least the part of it where he kind of admitted that the FBI had convinced him to squash the story on the Hunter Biden laptop?
I did not see that interview.
Okay.
I don't watch.
He basically, I don't either.
But I haven't heard that interview.
I heard it on another podcast, and Joe Rogan got Mark Zuckerberg to admit that the FBI had told him to tamper down
the Hunter laptop store.
Yeah,
basically use like manipulate the algorithms of Facebook to keep it from gaining momentum. Is
right.
What he means here?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he admitted
pretty huge.
You think it'd be bigger than it is? Yeah.
I mean, if that, to me, that alone should prompt some kind of congressional investigation, because that's the FBI directly acting as a political partisan. Yeah, it's ginormous. But like I said, the FBI's out of control. Nobody's going to do anything because the FBI controls everyone in power right now. Yeah.
We need new people. That's the only way to overcome this. Okay. The man of the hole is a guy in the Amazon rainforest who, I guess, there's kind of a territory there. It's kind of like a, what do you call that, where the Indians live? A reservation.
Like a reservation?
For indigenous people in the Amazon rainforest. Well, all the indigenous people were gone or dead or left, except for this one old man who lived in total isolation in this hole. And he's been there isolated for 26 years, and he's dead now. So, I don't know if...
How did he get food and stuff in this hole?
No, he came out of the hole. It's just he lived in the hole. You know, that was...
okay. He didn't... Okay, it wasn't like one of those guys that gets up on a platform or something and, knocks you down. Okay. It's just he lived in a hole. Kind of like a hobbit.
They call him the man of the hole. And he lived there where his tribe was for the last 26 years. He was the last indigenous person there. Mm-hmm. And he's now dead. Now, I don't know what happens to that land, if it, what they're going to do with it, but anyway, the last indigenous person of that tribe is now dead.
Yeah.
This is weird. In Madagascar, there's 18 people are killed and 34 wounded. Apparently there's this thing where kids with albinism are often killed or kidnapped.
Wow.
And there was I guess a little boy with albinism who was kidnapped, and the people in Madagascar are wound up about it and started this protest. But what I can't figure out is, no. They had suspects in jail. I think 4 suspects.
I was going to say, what are they protesting?
Yeah, that's what I couldn't figure out. Okay. They had 4 suspects in jail, and the people of Madagascar rose up. They wanted to lynch them.
Oh, okay.
And they attacked the police station. The police finally had to open fire on them. 18 people are killed, 34 are wounded.
Okay.
But apparently this isn't all that rare. It's like when the people of Madagascar get angry, they rise up and try to force something like this. A lot
of mob justice in Madagascar.
Yeah. So, 1 person is killed and 50 others injured by a hailstorm in Spain. This is the first direct hail-related death in Europe since 1997.
Huh.
You would think, I don't know, I always hear about hailstorms where they show you these hail balls that are like as big as golf balls.
Yeah.
You would think there'd be a lot more injuries.
I know.
I mean, I remember once me and Pee-wee were walking home from the store, and it started raining, and we're just laughing, and all of a sudden the raindrops started hurting real bad, and I was like, holy cows, and it was hailing on us. That hurts. And these were little hail, you know?
The little pea-sized ones hurt.
Yeah, we just started running, but I can imagine something like the size of a golf ball hitting you in the head.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think, I don't know, you'd think there'd be more deaths from this. Like,
at least serious injury. Now, I don't know, maybe injuries do happen regularly, and this is just the first time that it's been an actual death. But, you know, I think they're better at predicting that a storm might involve hail.
Yeah, and I guess, I don't know, but like, what if it hailed like in California, where there's billions of people that are homeless?
Oh, that's right.
With nowhere to go. I wonder if it hails in California ever.
I don't know. I mean, is because hail is a storm. So it's a storm phenomenon. I mean, it has to be storming.
It has to be
hail.
cold.
It can't be just because it's rain. And it's not a cold thing. It's a storm thing. I mean, you don't get hail in the winter, for example.
Okay.
Because what happens is the hail forms from activity that's in the thunderhead cloud. That causes the air to get cold and the hail to build up, even though it might be summer, you know, outside.
Yeah. Come to think of it, when we got hit with hail, it was warm out because the only thing we were wearing was a white T-shirt.
Oh, right.
So it was warm or hot out, and we were still getting hit by hail.
Yeah. Hail is a storm thing. Typically a summer storm thing.
Okay. Sweden reports its first case of H5N1 bird flu in a porpoise.
Porpoise?
I don't know if that means Sweden has never had a case of H5N1, or if they've never had a porpoise with H5N1.
Yeah, is this the first case and it happens to be a porpoise, or is just the first case that is a porpoise? Yeah.
Here, hold on.
Sometimes it's hard to know how to read these.
Okay, no, they found they had a porpoise and it died because of H5N1, and that's the first time anyone's seen a porpoise with H5N1.
Okay.
It says it likely got it by coming into contact with a bird. Mm-hmm. Well, that would make sense because it's a bird flu.
It's a bird flu.
But how often do porpoises come in contact with birds?
Interact. Yeah, I mean, what?
One's in the sea and one's in the air.
I mean, pelican maybe? Seagull?
Yeah. Like if they tried to eat it, you know? I mean, they're meat eaters, so...
Or like if it... I don't know. Can you get it if
maybe
a bird craps into your mouth or something? I mean, it hasn't transmitted to humans yet, right?
As far as I know.
They're concerned because the bird flus can sometimes mutate to humans. But what I don't know is the flu virus in the bird's crap. Because, you know, they crap over the sea and then porpoises are there, you know.
But this, I think, it looks like this was a porpoise that... It was a wild porpoise that got landlocked or something.
Oh,
and I don't... Why didn't they just, like, open up a way for it to get back to the ocean? I don't know. The whole thing is weird. Who would test a porpoise for bird flu?
Yeah, a porpoise
That
dies.
seems bizarre to me.
Yeah, it's like, well,
then you just throw it away.
I mean, maybe...
Yeah, why would it...
Maybe, you know, maybe it is just one of those things where it's like, okay, nobody expected this porpoise to die. Let's figure out why it died in case there's, you know, some kind of concern for human health.
Maybe thousands of porpoises have bird flu. Like,
maybe
most of the porpoises that die because of bird flu. And we
wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Because they're all...
That's weird. It's a weird story.
Yeah.
Life expectancy in the United States decreases for the second consecutive year. So, what happened in the past 2 years that would cause life expectancy to decrease? I don't think so. I think it's the vaccine.
Well, yeah, could be the vaccine too. But I mean, COVID itself, by you kill people in somewhat high numbers a few years before they would have otherwise died. That's going to decrease the life expectancy.
Okay. I don't know. It's crazy. I mean, we've got studies out right now admitting that the COVID restrictions have killed more people than COVID did.
Yeah, we know that. I think
number one.
I think we knew that within the first 3 or 4 months of the restrictions. It's just that nobody was willing to talk about it.
Called it from the start. We haven't been wrong about one single thing in concerns with COVID. And we were banned.
Oh yeah,
one of our videos.
I know. Was it Facebook or?
This is different.
Oh,
we had a specific video banned on YouTube, and it's the weird thing is, the video was is the vaccine the mark of the beast?
Oh, interesting.
I was kind of curious about that because, I mean, we didn't come out, we weren't for the vaccine, but we didn't go for all the weird conspiracy theories about the vaccine. You know?
Because we were kind of
we were kind of on the
first
fence
the first
on that
few
one.
times we talked about the vaccine, we were kind of pushing back on some of the stupid stuff people were saying.
Yeah, like it turns you into a magnet and things like that.
Yeah.
It's weird that one got banned because over the next year we got more and more anti-vax just because of how hard they were pushing. Now, we never once suggested that people ought to get vaccine. From the start, we both said this is very experimental and we have no idea what it's going to do to people. It could be really bad. But the things people are claiming are not true. It's just that, and then over the next year, we realized that this is turning into something really bad.
Yeah, there's something bizarre here.
But it's just weird that that's the one that got banned on YouTube.
It is weird.
Anyway, that was our first warning. It said we might get more warnings. But that one was banned, and that was our warning. Now, I mean, we don't really get a lot of YouTube because we'll do our podcast and then sometimes it's like a week or two later before I get it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I went 4 or 5 weeks without getting any on YouTube. But, out of all of them, the one that got more attention was the overpopulation one we did last week.
Oh,
that seems to be getting... it's not that popular. It's just but compared to the other ones.
You would, the only reason I say that's interesting is because we kind of even said in that video that overpopulation itself has kind of become a dead topic.
Yeah,
in some ways,
but apparently not.
It's not talked about as much as it used to be. So I'm surprised that would get a few more hits than the other ones.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. That is all of my news.
Okay. Well, I have some news. By the way, did you, before I get into the nonsense news, did you hear about that thing, let's see, the Pope, the guy that Pope Francis appointed as the head or whatever of the Pontifical something for life? This is the guy who had that homo artist come in and paint that homoerotic mural. And
okay.
Do you know where I'm going with this? His comment about the abortion rights law.
Yeah,
in Italy?
He said it was like a pillar now of society.
Now here's the thing. When I heard, it was only this morning that I was hearing one of the guys, Taylor Marshall, I think.
I think Taylor Marshall did a video about that. Yeah.
And at first when he was talking about it, I was thinking, okay, he's probably overreacting. because my first thought was, okay, so let's say here in America, before, say, Roe v. Wade, somebody might say something like, well, the abortion permissiveness of Roe v. Wade has become part of the fabric of society.
That's kind of how I took it.
And by saying that, what you would actually be doing is saying that by way of criticizing and condemning how society has gone.
Yeah.
But now, the explanation that was given for the comment, because even if somebody said that, we would never translate that into the next step and say, therefore Roe v. Wade probably can't be overturned, so we're not going to worry about it, or something like that. But it sounds like now their explanation was that. Like, he's just saying, we're not going to change that law.
Wait, as if...
Holy cow.
How is that... This right after America finally overturned Roe v. Wade, even though most people thought of it as a pillar.
Mm-hmm.
We did it. Why can't they do it? And it's been a law here in America for longer than it was there.
Yeah.
So why can't these bishops? They make me sick.
Yeah.
It's so terrible. We need to pray for manly bishops.
Yep.
Manly bishops, manly politicians. We need men.
Yeah. Well, that's another interesting thing about the Shia LaBeouf interview is that he engaged that topic a little bit about manliness. Yeah,
he did. And that, you know what? That's another part of this, is that Shia LaBeouf is he's masculine. He's not a wimpy Hollywood type. Like, a lot of the Hollywood types are just, I don't know, whatever. Brad Pitt.
Well,
it's
effeminate.
like, give me a break.
Yeah,
I want to cry and things like that. But I don't know if Shia LaBeouf has ever cried in his movies, but he doesn't seem like the weepy type. Mm-hmm. And he seems more like the tougher guy. And seems more of a tougher guy in real life. But after seeing the interview, now I'm thoroughly convinced he is a tougher guy. We need more men like him in Hollywood and in pretty much everywhere.
In the church? in the bishop's chairs?
Certainly in the church. Just terrible.
All right. So, now on to nonsense news.
Okay.
All right. We have a guy who... I can't believe there's actually a world record for this. The longest voyage in a pumpkin boat. I guess he took this big pumpkin and carved out the middle so that he could sit in it like a boat, and grabbed a paddle and floated down a river, 38 miles. It was a 846-pound pumpkin.
Wow.
And he took it down the Missouri River. It says sailing down the Missouri River, but I don't see a sail. He's paddling down the river. Yeah,
he's like, I guess they just did. He looks like he turned it more into like a kayak.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, exactly.
I wonder if you have a pumpkin. Let's say you have a pumpkin and you hollow it out.
Mm-hmm.
In order to remain afloat, does it have to stay not full of water? Like, if it fills up with water, is it going to sink?
Oh, is the pumpkin flesh floaty?
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Like, if you just take a piece of pumpkin, a chunk of it, and throw it in the water, will it float? That's a good question.
I am going to do that and find out this Halloween.
I was going to say, we'll have some pumpkins later.
And we'll find out if pumpkins float. Especially, and then a lot of times it's not just... It's like it'll float in different kinds of water, like salt water or river water versus water in your bathtub are very different.
The previous record was 25 miles.
There was another record?
That's what I say. I can't believe this is something that they actually keep records on.
Okay, but see...
2018.
They're calling that the longest sail. And
well, I know. He said 30.
I wonder if he actually
miles,
sailed.
But
no, that guy had a kayak too.
But they're saying Yeah, I think in both cases,
both of those are
really
saying
just
sail,
paddling, not sailing.
But they
That's
paddled.
just poor reporting. That I guess this reporter doesn't know what a sail is.
Yeah, he just doesn't know what a sailing is. But you know what we should do is make a pumpkin sail, and like go out to sea in it and actually sail.
If
that would be...
and maybe even if we only just did 1 mile, we would set a record because it would be a true sail.
Yeah, because I wouldn't do that because I don't like going out, and I would never sail anything. But
really, you don't like the idea of being in a sailboat?
If I cannot swim ashore, I'm not going.
Oh, okay. You don't like the idea of being at sea. So
right.
you would not go on one of those like cruises, like the the big ships.
No, I wouldn't go on one of those.
Okay.
That's too scary for me.
Yeah.
There was a saint, I think it was a woman, who was afraid of sailing, afraid of the water. She was afraid of drowning. And she wanted to teach or something in Italy, I think, but her order wanted her to go to America. And she didn't want to go because she was afraid of sailing. But she ended up making the voyage between Europe and America, I think, 28 times.
Oh, wow.
28 round trips. She's a saint now because of her missionary work here in the States. But
well,
that's
see,
amazing.
if she had been a little bit holier, maybe she could have just done like that other. What's the name of that other nun that bilocated from Europe and converted that group of Indians
in
New
never
Mexico?
Heard that story.
Oh, you never heard that story?
No.
Oh yeah, these Indians, found the missionary priests that were down there. I think it was in New Mexico or something. And they said, hey, this woman taught us the faith, but she said we have to find a priest and get baptized. And the priests kind of didn't want to deal with them. They were busy with their current missionary tribe or whatever it was. But they kept coming back and persisting, and then so finally they're like, okay, and then they're talking about, what about this woman? Who's this woman you're talking about? Some woman in like blue and white and something like that. Well, in the meantime, this nun over in Europe is having these experiences where she's talking to the chief of this native tribe and to the people and explaining the faith to them. And across continents, they were describing the events in a way they match up perfectly. It was very clear that she had been bilocating and converting this Indian tribe.
Sor Maria de Jesus de Agreda.
Yeah, you found it.
I have never heard of this story. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I wish we would have done a story on her when we were doing the Saint of the Week, Sister Maria. Maybe we'll talk about her next week.
Yeah, we'll do the research. We can bring her up next time.
Yeah, and it looks like they have her relics. Huh, mm-hmm. That is incredible. I never would have thought of something like that. Well, this woman could not bilocate. She had to actually sail back and forth. She didn't do it in a big pumpkin.
Yeah.
But, wow, that is one big pumpkin.
Well, anyway.
I gotta wonder. I'll bet gourds float.
Probably do, but, is there buoyancy enough if it were to have, significant water in it, is the buoyancy of the gourd enough to also support a man?
Well, that too, yeah, it's got to support him. But I imagine that,
for 800 pounds
put anything in the water, eventually it starts to sink. That's why, even if you have a life vest or something, mm-hmm. they begin to take on water, and you can only float for so long, and then it sinks. I imagine the pumpkin does the same thing. How many days did it take him?
Oh, good question.
It doesn't say here.
Nope, it does
Started
not.
in the city of Bellevue, Nebraska.
He said, I'm not going to do it again.
I wouldn't either.
You wouldn't do it the first time. Said he did it for his 60th birthday.
Well, it was less than a year. I don't know. I can't figure out how long it took him.
I don't know, 'cause, I mean, 38 miles. I mean,
okay.
if you
but
can
if
go
you're
2
going
miles,
downstream,
if you're going downstream, and,
that's not that
and
big
if you
a
can
deal.
maintain like 3 or 4 miles an hour, you could do it within a day.
Yeah, that's not that big. Yeah, you'd be tired when you get done, but yeah, it's not that big.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So there's this thing in New York where grocery stores have been carding people when they want to buy whipped cream in the in the canister where you got to turn it upside down.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Okay, but here's the thing. This is why it pays to actually read the law. People are just misinterpreting and reacting. I run into this at stores. Like, for example, I in Indiana we had the whole you can't buy alcohol on Sunday thing, right?
Yeah.
So, well, I went and I got sparkling water from the area where they sell the stuff that you use in order to add to alcohol to make like cocktails, mixed drinks, stuff like that. Well, a common thing is club soda as part of the base for a mixed drink. So I got this club soda, and the person who I initially interacted with didn't want to sell it to me because it was a Sunday. So you always run into stupid people at stores like that.
That would drive me crazy.
I want to say
I wouldn't be able to walk away.
Actually.
I'm sure it was.
It was. It was a Walmart. Anyway, I did get.
Right,
I talked to a manager who was a little bit, more with it, and
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's not the canisters; it's the refill cartridges to repressurize the canisters. Those are what you need to be 21 to buy, because there's this thing that people are doing. I guess it's some kind of a, I don't know, does it cause a high? Like they inhale the nitrogen or something like that, or the nitrous oxide that's in the canister. I guess it's the nitrous oxide. So it's like going to the dentist and getting laughing gas or something like that.
But wait a minute. Can you really? I didn't know you. Why would you refill a whipped cream can?
Well, that's what I'm wondering is because I've never heard of refilling a whipped cream can.
Neither have I. I mean, if you're out of pressure and yet you still have some whipped cream in there, is it really that big a deal where you buy a whole separate cartridge in order to refill? I mean, they're not that expensive. You just throw it away and get another one.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I did not.
This is New York. Maybe there's a real annoying law about how to dispose of them. You know how in some jurisdictions you're not allowed to throw batteries in the trash, so stupid stuff like that. Well, I do it anyway. But maybe in New York you're not allowed to throw these things in the trash, and you got to have them disposed specially. And in that case, then I could see.
Or maybe there's a giant whipped cream thing that you can buy, and maybe nobody even knows this, but you have to recharge it in order to get all the whipped cream out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. So
instead of these normal little cans, because I'm looking at a can and I'm looking at one of those cartridges, and I can't figure out how you would use it.
How do you? Yeah, what?
How do you refill it? I don't know.
What does this actually mean exactly? So anyway,
that's weird.
But somehow this law about nitrous oxide cartridges has gotten grocery stores carding people to buy whipped cream.
Can I see your license, please? A bunch of Karens. Yeah. I can imagine that.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? I don't understand why it's right here.
What's that?
Why did I not report this? No, it's not here. Where is it? I know I wrote it down, but I didn't report the people in... police arrest over 40 protesters for vandalism during the Just Stop Oil protest and blockade in London, United Kingdom.
Oh.
So apparently what happened, these people who are protesting, I don't know what, big oil, were going to gas stations and destroying the pumps.
Oh, that is vandalism.
With a hammer. Like a hammer and a chisel, and just walk up to a pump and start banging on it and breaking it. I didn't know 40 people had gotten arrested, but I did see a video where this gas station owner's like, "What the hell are you doing? Get off that! Stop it!" And she just some Karen, nasty, ugly chick, just with a hammer and a chisel banging on his gas pump, breaking it. But apparently it was a big thing all over UK. A bunch of old yucky women went out and did this.
That's like the Bob Dylan song. At the end of the song, the pump don't work because the vandals took the handles.
Pump don't work because the vandals took the handles. You know, the funny thing is, you were talking about concerts. Mm-hmm. I've only been to a few concerts. One of them, Jason invited me to a... what's the name of the group? It was an indie group for a long time.
I know who you mean. You actually sent me a text message while you were there, or I sent you one.
What is the name of? That's gonna.
It was.
What's the name?
It was the Lumineers or Lumieres or something like that.
Lumineers, yeah,
something like that.
Okay, I did like them for a long time before they got popular. That was one of the groups that I found very early on, long before anyone else heard of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went to that concert with him, and they had a few opening bands. Mm-hmm. I can't remember what that's called, but people who are not the Lumineers playing.
Yeah,
and
they call them openers.
I was so incredibly bored. I'm thinking, why would anyone come to one of these concerts? This is so stupid. There's 5 billion people in one building, and I don't like any of them. And I'm crowded in with these people. I gotta admit, the Lumineers came on, and they put on a hell of a show. It was a good concert. And I got into it. But the funny thing is, one of the songs they sang was that song. The Bob Dylan...
the Subterranean...
Johnny's in the basement.
Yeah.
Fixing up the medicine. I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, Subterranean Homesick Blues. That's right. Okay, they sang that song. Probably me and Jason are the only people in that whole place who knew that it was a Bob Dylan song.
Wow.
But it was. They did a good job of it too.
Oh, cool.
Because it was mostly kids, and probably most kids don't know that that's Bob Dylan's song.
They don't even know Bob Dylan.
Yeah, but it was cool. Anyway. All right, I'm done.
Okay. Next we have I don't know. Could you try to maybe take this on a bus somewhere? Somebody has a emotional support alligator, and I mean this is like a 3-4 foot alligator. There's a video of like at a water park, a little girl walking around with it on a leash.
Where is this?
It's in
Philadelphia.
Like Philadelphia, yeah.
Philadelphia's Love Park. What's a Love Park?
I don't think it's... I think
just
it's
the name
Love,
of the park?
I think it's like Love Park. Like Love is a last name.
Philadelphia's Love Park.
Yeah, like... you might say,
Love Park is the name of the park.
Washington Park or Dillon Park. Well, it's Love Park.
Okay, and she had an alligator.
I think it's... I think the alligator is actually her dad's or something like that.
I don't understand how this thing has never bit her.
Or anybody. I mean,
Yeah. Okay, let's say you had an alligator that you allowed your daughter to walk around on a leash, and it bit her. You'd go to jail.
I think so.
You know you would.
He had
called
it registered.
Child endangerment. Okay, but it's an alligator. You can't...
So he got it from the wild, or somebody got it to him from the wild in Florida. They have all these alligators around there, you know. He bought it as a baby. It was less than 2 feet long at the time.
He sleeps with me,
doesn't
steals
show
my
anger
pillows.
And doesn't show aggression.
Steals my blankets. He's just awesome.
Steals pillows.
Huh. Sleep? That's stupid.
That's dumb. He's gonna not. This guy's gonna not wake up one day.
Or his daughter isn't. I knew a guy who. I went and he had me there to work on his printer, and I look over and in this gated fenced in area he had goats,
mm-hmm.
and I went over, looked at the goats, and I came back. Oh, you got goats? He said, yeah. And we're walking towards his printer through his house. And I said, are those Toggenburgs? And he turned around me and looked at me like I had two heads. That's probably the first time he's ever been asked that. He said, how the hell would you know what a Toggenburg is? I said, well, I used to raise goats. I know what goats are. I know the breeds. And he said, yes, they're Toggenburgs. And then, so after talking with him and going through his printer, he was impressed with my understanding of goats and stuff like that. He said, well, I got a surprise for you. And he said, just stand there at the edge of the fence. And then he made this weird call, and out of the blue, this zebra comes running up. This is in the middle of, it's like a woodland surrounded by city.
Is this the place that was off of North Bend Road?
I can't even remember where it was. I got pictures of it. But
I remember a place off of North Bend Road where a guy...
Was there a zebra?
Was reputed to have some exotic animals. All it was rumors to me.
Okay, this isn't a bunch of exotic animals. It's a zebra and a funny looking... Yeah. So, what happened is, he bought the zebra to mate with a mule, and the product of these two animals would make this, not with a mule, a certain kind of donkey.
Right. Would make a mule.
The product
like a zebra mule.
Would make a mule that apparently the Romans used to use heavily, and it's a very expensive mule.
Oh,
it's a rare, expensive mule. Mm-hmm. That was the plan. But he said, I fell in love with the zebra, and when he was like a year old, I couldn't stand to go through with this, so I had him castrated. The idea being that he wants it to continue being a pet.
Oh, because if he didn't castrate it, the zebra would become more willful and wild and stuff. And,
yeah, and downright violent.
Okay. I guess zebras get
that
way.
He had it castrated, despite all the money he spent on the donkey and the zebra. Mm-hmm. So he did that, and then he admitted to me that the zebra is a wild animal and probably eventually would kill him.
Oh, wow.
As a matter of fact, it had bit his son, like, in the shoulder and put him in the hospital. Like, broke one of the bones by biting him in the shoulder or something like that.
That's a hard bite.
That's how...
Think of a zebra having that hard a bite.
Right. But this is a mammal. And mammals are much easier to tame than a reptile.
Yes.
The stupidity of sleeping with an alligator is just beyond me.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I can't imagine. And my son used to hang out with this boy, and this boy's mom has some kind of reptile habitat in her basement. And one of the things she had, it's either an alligator or a crocodile. It's like 4 feet long. I've never seen it, but the whole idea is so dumb.
Yeah.
You can't pretend that this thing has, like, personality the way a dog would. Or
right.
I know everything has a personality.
Some kind of personality, but yeah, that's...
But don't act like this thing... I think these people fool themselves into thinking, like, that the alligator loves them back.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like...
It's easy to think that about a dog.
Yeah.
But an alligator? Come on.
I think it's like that guy that, and here we're back to talking about mammals, but remember that guy that used to, I guess he imagined himself as like a bear whisperer or something, but he would kind of like...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you remember.
He got killed, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, he went into the polar bear thing. He went in to talk to the polar bears, I think, and then he ended up getting killed.
Anyway, so let's see. Last is a fisherman story. Just kind of interesting. Guy, he was like at a fishing contest, and this is in the Missouri. This is the same river that the guy did the pumpkin thing in. Anyway, so he thought he had snagged a rock or something with his fishing hook, and he pulled out what turned out to be this like what people are saying is a 90 million year old fossil.
Huh.
Now I don't see like a clear picture. Okay, there it is.
Yeah, they don't show you exactly what it looks like. Well, there's one picture, but that's a giant rock. Did he pull that whole thing in?
Well, that's like super close up. If you go on the thing above that where like it's a video and play it, and then play it for a few seconds, and you can see the rock. I think I don't know how big the rock is, but
well, I'd like to see it next to him.
Okay, there you see it. If you keep playing, you see it on a kitchen counter that gives you a little bit of a sense of scale.
Okay. Still, it seems like an odd thing to snag.
I know. It's like your hook just happened to catch some, I don't know, part of the spine or something like that. But scientists who have looked at it say it's like the fossil of some predatory fish.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I remember once fishing, I think I was fishing for trout. I had never been fishing for trout. I had no idea what I was doing. And I didn't even bother to ask. I asked one guy, he said, here's how you do it. So I did that.
Uh-huh.
Didn't come close to, I didn't catch anything. Except, I was pulling my line and I thought, well, I'll be dang. There's a rock. Somehow I snagged a rock. And it was like the size of my fist.
Uh-huh.
And it ended up being a clam.
Oh, wow.
That had, cool. I don't know.
Somehow your hook had
I don't know if I snagged it or if it actually tried to eat me. I don't know. But I just don't know how you could snag a rock. I have never snagged a rock. That's the only time I ever thought I snagged a rock.
Yeah.
It ended up being a clam. How would you how would it do that?
The only thing I can think is that, like, because you can see where the what I'm presuming is the spine, and it's got like these little nooks where, like, between it and the rock that it's kind of embedded in, and if your hook could get under one of those or something like that, that's the only thing I can think.
Pretty
cool. It says the guy didn't do too well at the at the fishing contest, so
yeah, I got a rock.
Yeah, Charlie Brown. All right, that's all the news, which means it's time for Bible trivia.
Bible trivia.
All right, I'm going to roll. It comes up number 6, which is just general. All right, so I guess this is finish the phrase. Are you getting coffee? I'll wait till you're back at the thing.
Coffee, I'm almost back.
Okay.
All right, now I'm back.
Okay. The phrase is, "We are therefore Christ's blank."
All right, let me think about this. I'm not going to look it up. I'm just going to think about this for a second. We are therefore Christ's... I mean, my first thought would be body.
That's my guess. My guess is body.
Some kind of representative, like...
Paul makes a big deal out of body.
We're here in the person of Christ. Something like that. You know? I don't know the answer, though.
Okay, well...
Mouthpiece, maybe? Like...
it's interesting. I mean, I'm looking at the
We're saying it for Christ, so we're speaking for Christ or something like that?
Well, yeah. Actually, you're very close by thinking it that way, because the answer on the card is, and the answer I'm reading in my Bible is ambassadors. So Corinthians 2 Corinthians 5:20. Now, the card has, of course it's, I don't know whether they do King James or what, but the quote on the card is, "We are therefore Christ's ambassadors," but in my Bible it's, "So we are ambassadors for Christ, God making his appeal through us. We beg you on behalf of Christ, be reconciled in God. For our sake, he made him to be sin who knew no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God." So you were very close with this idea of mouthpiece and speaking for, because that's exactly what an ambassador is.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Thank you. All
right, that's it for me.
I'm trying to think of a way to link that to the rest of the podcast, but
trying to make that what?
No, I mean, link to the rest of the podcast.
Oh,
maybe the fact that the bishops are the ambassadors for Christ.
The bishops are supposed to be the ambassadors of Christ. They're not doing a good job.
No. If they're not wimps and not standing up and speaking what Christ wants. The only time they do speak for Christ, they charge you for it. And they copyright it. Hell, even the whatchamacallits, the Pope's encyclicals are all copyrighted.
Yeah.
I think this is the biggest crime in the church. This bugs me more and more every week.
Like, for example, the Monsignor Shadle, who, I don't know if you know the name, but he used to be the Vicar General of the Archdiocese, but he was the pastor at Holy Rosary back when I went there regularly. He since has moved on to St. Luke's Parish up like north in Indy. But he said the English masses there while Father Develius, the guy who did Granny B's funeral, he was doing the Latin masses at Holy Rosary. So anyway, Monsignor Shadle, very, good guy, good priest, very, what we would say today is based. But even he, at one point, I had gotten, my kind of blog thing going, the gristmill stuff and everything. And so I was looking for, ways to kind of add content to it. And I approached him once about, hey, if you prepare your sermons ahead of time, I knew that a lot of priests wrote their sermons out before, going and giving them at Mass. I said, if you prepare your sermons ahead of time, I could post them on my blog site if you're interested, And his answer was that he doesn't think he can do that because there are syndication issues. So he basically syndicates his work so that it can be published through, whatever lines of publication or something. So even like small time, everything is tied up with this whole copyright publishing stuff.
Yeah, it's dumb. Actually, I just looked up. Fulton Sheen's works are all copyrighted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, I remember this. I remember paying it's like $29 and you can download the entire MP3 library. Or you can get all of these talks one at a time by downloading them to your computer. And I think I started doing that, and then I thought, well, I'll just get the whole library and put it on my phone. But I don't know. It's just to me, it's a crime. And it's one thing for a bishop to do it in order to sell books or talks or whatever the hell he's selling. But when the Pope does it...
yeah. Well, in my opinion...
There's a serious problem here.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's... Most of the problem is in, like... The problems with, like, the crappy music and stuff is kind of tied up in the world of copyrights.
Yeah. I mean, people write church music in order to copyright it now. That's why and of course it sounds. I mean, the music they're putting out today sounds like mass-produced music. It's no good. That's why I say that
terrible.
You would improve at every parish in America, every Novi parish in America. You would improve the quality of the music at least 10 times if you just adopted the rule. We're not going to use any copyrighted music. Yeah,
it would be instantly better.
Yeah.
Than anything else. Remember the after the Pope gave us Traditione Custodes, he published the answering the dubia.
Oh right,
from those questions.
Responsa ad dubia.
And one of the questions was, which I know nobody asked this.
Yeah.
But it had to do with the readings.
Mm-hmm. Which version?
The readings had to come from a approved English translation.
Right.
And no one was allowed to gather those readings into a book and publish it.
Oh, right. There was something weird like that.
You had to. It all went around the fact that they want to be able to sell only. They only want the church to be able to read from copyrighted material.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I just this is so much more a part of the problem, I think, than most people realize.
Yeah.
The money here is kind of part of the thing that perpetuates this incredibly terrible music and the incredibly terrible translations that we have to deal with. I wonder, like, could a priest say, look, I don't know what to say. The Douay Rheims is an approved Bible. And
but is it approved for liturgical use?
What did they use before the crappy things they have now? What did they use in the 60s?
As far as I know, the
50s.
only book that's ever been approved for English liturgical use is the New American Bible.
Because they always read it in Latin.
Yeah, it was... And in fact, I don't even think it mattered. Like, because the Mass itself was in Latin, and then if the priest wanted to, like, maybe as part of the sermon or something, he could and that's basically how it was. He would reread maybe the epistle and then the gospel. And I don't think it mattered what translation he used when he did that. There was no rule about that.
I'm trying to think, if I were a priest, I would have a hard time obeying this.
Yeah, that would be
And I
tough.
would think, is there a way around this? I just can't do this.
Fine.
I
Is there a
cannot
loophole
read
here?
this because it's so bad. The translations are so bad. Okay. All right. Well, folks, think about what we said, and as always,
go raw and circle the beads.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.